Good morning. How are you today? Good. This morning is a little kind of chilled and a little gloomy, but hopefully you have a great day today. Today, my student Daniel couldn't be here, so it's gonna be my own presentation. But hopefully you can enjoy this lecture. So we kind of stop here. What's your take? Next Thursday is due of your reflection paper. So actually this Thursday is due of your reflection paper. So you may choose any of those what's your take question and try to submit through Blackboard. Yeah. So if you want to talk about your experience, maybe traveling somewhere else, other country, and it will be great topic you can talk about. This is like one of your question. So I will go to the next one, cultural intelligence. So cultural intelligence is when you go to somewhere else, maybe know about their culture and try to behave, understanding and respecting their culture. So ability to live and interact effectively in a multicultural society. So if you're looking at this photo, you may realize they're bowing each other, right? Instead of say hi, hello, waving hands. Instead of waving hands, they kind of bow their head and try to introduce each other and greeting each other. So this is more like an Asian culture. You bow down about like a 45-degree angle and try to kind of put your kind of upper part of body and then leaning toward more like up and say hello and how are you. So if you maybe visit some Korea, Japan, and other Asian country, you may bow and say hello, nodding your head. Okay, so that was the culture, and if you try to live and interact effectively with a person who live other country, you try to be more culturally intelligent, right? So that was the cultural intelligence. And underline microaggression. So microaggression means everyday actions or comments. Maybe you even do not notice it, but you try to not to harm other people, but unintentionally, maybe you say some words or some phrases and comment, but that makes that person a little uncomfortable, or maybe not satisfaction of their comment. So here, everyday actions or comment that often unintentionally contain hostile or off-putting messages for members of the certain cultures. So let's watch one video clip. What does that mean about microaggression? And thinking about, have you ever experienced microaggression? It can be depending on your age, because of your ethnicity, maybe because of your sexual orientation, maybe because of your religion. So there are so many cases. Maybe the other person unintentionally try to say certain words and comments, but that hurts you so much. Yeah, it can possibly. So we are gonna watch short video clip and talk about more about microaggression.
Microaggressions are subtle, sometimes unintentional comments that may make someone feel excluded, like when you are making an assumption about someone's life that may not be true and might make them uncomfortable without realizing it.
Microaggressions are when someone assumes something of you or something about you or anything, and it comes off very hostile to you.
I have been on the end of a microaggression that someone else has committed. I'm not from here, so English is my second language. And sometimes when I tell people, they're like, "Oh, you speak so good English." And I'm like, I hope so. I've been here like 13 years.
I'm a waitress right now, and I had one of my regulars ask me, "Well, what are you going to school for again? I can't remember." Like, "Oh, I'm going to go be a teacher." He said, "Oh, good for you. That's a good job for a woman." It's like, that's kind of mean, but okay. Thanks a lot.
So an example of microaggression is, let's say I'm in a taxi and the taxi driver asks me, "So, like, how are you doing?" I'm like, "Yeah, great, fine." He's like, where are you from? And I say, oh, I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. He's like, no, but where are you from really, you know? And I'm like, I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. That's where I was born. That's where I lived all my life. He says, no, where are your parents from? And then I say, oh, they're from South Korea. And he says, you see, that's what I meant. You're Korean. That's microaggression.
Microaggressions are important for people to understand because it's discrimination. You know, it hurts people's feelings.
I think it's really important because sometimes with a lot of people, you don't really know how they might take it. You kind of have them thinking negatively once they have a hostile comment that you've made towards them.
To just not make assumptions about people. Don't assume that they are one way or the other. Don't assume that they're, straight. Don't assume that they're interested in things for certain reasons. Just be open and just be kind, honestly.
I look around in my classroom, my work area and stuff like that. We have so many different people, and you just have to be aware of what you're saying and be conscious. It's not just about you.
Okay, so there was a good example and their story of having those microaggression. So we've been talking about multiculturalism and diversity and respecting others' culture and individual differences. So next topic will be gender and sexuality. This topic and definition, gender and sexuality, even like a definition has been changed, and there's like a room for improving. So I'm gonna focusing on more basic definition of gender and sexuality in this lecture. So people are confused, and sometimes they are using interchangeably gender versus sex. So when we say sex, those are more like a biological maleness or femaleness. You are born as a boy and your chromosome is XY, genetically. And you are born as a girl and your chromosome is XX. So those are like a biological maleness and femaleness. We call it sex. And gender is a little different. Gender is more psychological and behavior experience of maleness or femaleness. So when you grow up, maybe you may kind of experience starting from early childhood, elementary school, and junior high and high school. When you're kind of growing up, we may have those sense of gender. So gender is more later on psychologically and behaviorally, maybe experiencing, you identify you as a male or maybe female, So, and also, those are male and female and other category of those gender. So we are going to talk more detailed for the next topic as a next slide. But we are going to watch short video clip and talk about those maleness, femaleness, and other category of those gender. Okay.
Well, sex is your biological femaleness or maleness, but gender is very different. It's your psychological and behavioral experience of maleness and femaleness.
Gender is the kind of psychosocial expectations of what it is to be a man or what it is to be a woman, whereas sex is just the biological components of your primary and secondary sex characteristics. I was raised by a single dad. I didn't really grow up being forced to, you have to do ballet. One girl I grew up with in particular, her parents were much more religious and conservative than mine were. They kind of forced that she wasn't to have ambitions besides getting married and being a mom. Not to say I didn't have, gender limitations on myself either. I mean, when it came to power tools or whatever, it was always, let your brother do that, or even though we were the same age. There was definitely always the expectation that I would get married and have children?
Growing up, pretty much my dad always encouraged me to do like sports and be involved in things like that, like doing things that makes you male, like sports, doing work, hard works, and learning to drive at a young age. In school, I think if I were to choose something like fashion design or anything like that, my male peers would be like, what are you doing? Like, you're not supposed to be doing this. You're supposed to be interested in football or sports like that.
Being a twin, me and my sister, we were constantly hearing, that's not ladylike, or as a young lady, you shouldn't act like that. And definitely, it instilled this kind of, okay, this is what it's supposed to be like to be a female.
I was the firstborn out of 3. My dad very much wanted a boy, and my mom was very excited that I was a girl. She put me in dance, cheer, bows, curls. By age 5, I was wearing makeup and hair curls, all the works. My dad, on the other hand, put me in baseball practices and took me to football games and stuff like that.
Gender definitely approaches your dating life, because it's like, okay, if I'm supposed to be prim and proper and respectful, then I'm supposed to be with a male that's masculine and he can provide and he's strong and opinionated and can make decisions. But I can be like that, but in a box. I can't fully express myself necessarily to the extent that males can. So it definitely has so much to do with how I personally react, and I know how a lot of my friends react to the world around us.
Gender development can be influenced by your peers and your family and the media, just for the sole reason of, everyone as a human being wants to fit in. So we, when girls are young, girls will listen to their peers and be like, oh, all of a sudden, even though I've made straight A's in math my entire life up to this point, I must be horrible at math and science because I'm a girl and girls aren't good at it. Lots of boys will have the pressure to go be a lawyer or a doctor or a mechanical engineer or a pilot, just like their dad.
Well, in media, I think they tend to really make men appear as more authoritative or more masculine or strong or independent, whereas females are portrayed as kind of needy or concerned about their sexual attractiveness.
I have boy-girl twins, they're 3. We just had their birthday party. My daughter got 5 dolls, and my son got all trucks. It's funny watching people assume what they want. When I even put on the list, I was like, they love dress up, and I put as a group what they love. They love puzzles, they love dress ups, but they still identified with, oh, she's a girl, she needs all girly things, and he's a boy, he needs all boy things. They're very strict on how they view people's gender.
Okay, so there was a good, example of the gender and sex, and people are talking about, sharing their experiences and also the stories. So here, the next topic is cisgender and transgender. So cisgender is sex and gender match. So you are born as a girl and you identify you as a girl, as a psychologically and behaviorally. So you feel comfortable being as a girl. Those are like a cisgender. And the other side is transgender. So sex and gender do not match, which means you are born as a boy, but somehow you feel like you identify you more like a femaleness. So in that case, maybe you do not happy for those and try to adjust into some of the group. But if you become like a being group of boys group, maybe it's a little uncomfortable for you. So often feelings of distress and unhappiness can happen if you're experiencing transgender. So sometimes they having some transitioning those status, which is they name change, maybe through some wearing different clothing and different hairstyle, and also hormone therapy too. They try to identify you more what they want to be identified. So in that sense, maybe we need to understand them better. Usually they're, as a transgender, they are more clear about their gender identity and sexual orientation when you become junior high and high school. So it can be very hard situation because when you're going through puberty and peer pressure is really matter when you're going through those junior high and high school, and identify you as a transgender, that can be really hard. So, I mean, since we are talking about respecting all the different aspects of individual difference, this is the chapter we try to respect and understand more about other people. So sexual orientation, underline. What's the definition of sexual orientation? It's a pattern of romantic attraction to a particular group, will be groups of other people. So heterosexual, it's attracted to the other sex or maybe other gender. Those are heterosexual. So as a man, if you're attracted to the female, those are heterosexual. Homosexual means attracted to the same sex. So as a female, if you're attracted to the female, those are homosexual. Bisexual is attracted to both the other and the same sex. And pansexual, it's depending on attracted to everyone regardless of other person's gender or sexual orientation. And fluid, it's attracted to different people at different times. And questioning is still in progress. And asexual means sexually attracted to no one. Those are terminology more like a, like a definition, but it's still fluid, which is it's changing, and there are more updated terminology about sexual orientation. But we want to know just the basic definition based on your textbook information. So when you're thinking about some survey, there are lots of capstone survey going on, and if you become senior in psychology and sociology department, and also other department, most of the department they have some capstone project because you are graduating college and choose your favorite topic and developing that as a research paper. And in the past, when we ask those demographic questions, so maybe asking about your gender, then how would you identify you? There are only two options, male or female. But we do put more options, male, female, non-binary, transgender, and other. So you need to mark those, and you need to add those. If you create any survey for the choice of gender, you need to add those options too. Okay? So predictors of sexual orientation, this is interesting. It's kind of changing information. So sometimes people say difference is detected hypothalamus. Those are suprachiasmatic nucleus, 70% of larger in gay men than in the random sample of men. And brain of gay, which is heterosexual woman, and also the lesbian, which is heterosexual man, kind of attracted to the female participant, resemble the brains of those opposite sex. So what does that mean is when you're kind of looking at the brain structure, and sometimes you think about maybe certain object and feeling of somebody else, heterosexual woman who is attracted to the male, and gay also who is attracted to the male, similar area of your brain is activating. So people think that's really fascinating and interesting factors. And birth order-wise, the more the older brothers a boy has, the greater the likelihood of being as a gay as a last boy. But those information, maybe we need to do more investigate, and scientifically we need to study more. But this is kind of interesting some research data. But we need to obviously do more about this study, and ongoing research is going on with this topic. Okay, so let's talk about what differences does gender make. This is kind of interesting, thinking about that if you're looking, if you're watching my lecture, do you agree with this? Or as maybe you identify as a man, and do you do more often this? So interrupt, especially to change the topic as a man, and speak loudly. Maybe you kind of voice up and try to share your opinion, and hold the floor for a long period of time, and try to, more like a dominant in that, topic, and stretch out, and sometimes fidgeting, and maintaining visual dominance. So maybe you can do more eye contact when speaking than listening. So, I mean, those are little basic information, maybe he says and she says, but we can kind of do a little, like a sharing experience here. So women more often do apologize. Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't know that. Yeah, maybe what was that? And more like a beginning, like, I'm so sorry, can you speak again? And those apologize more than men and offer compliment. Oh, I really like your t-shirt today. I really like your jacket. Yeah, maybe compliment more comparing to the men. But, I want to say there are always individual difference. Sometimes some of the women, they do not compliment and they do not apologize. But, those are more like a textbook information is based on, previous maybe data and statistics. And use verbal emphasis like, yeah, right, and nodding their head, yeah, and kinder and you'll and smile and nod, and maybe lean forward whenever you talk to somebody else and explain about certain topic. I mean, as a female professor, I do too. I agree with some of those those factors, which is I seems like apologize often, like, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't know that. Can I help you? And maybe that was my mistake. I kind of apologize, yeah. Maybe beginning with, I'm so sorry, but yeah, those kind of comments. And also, I really like to maybe compliment somebody else because that makes me happy too. Because whenever I say, oh, Sarah, you look great, and I like your yellow shirt, and maybe that person is kind of happy and smiling at me, and thank you. And you really like to see that person's happy face too. So, for me, the complimenting other people's maybe clothing, maybe way of speaking, and their presentation, that makes me happy. So I'm gonna do it. Yeah, I'm gonna do it in that way. But maybe people think as one of those characteristics, man versus maybe woman. So think about that. Do you do those like a man more likely and maybe woman more likely? If you maybe think about it and maybe through the Blackboard, you need to do some like a discussion board, right? What did you learn about this chapter, which is chapter 10? You can talk about your characteristics and personalities as a maybe woman and man, yeah? That would be good, yeah. Okay. Here, and gender, personality, and education and direction. This is our last slide. So personality-wise, there are maleness and femaleness. And also maybe you do not think maybe you are not belong to any of those, yeah, possibly. But there are not much huge big difference among those personality. Those are small, consistent differences on some traits. So we will talk about personality traits, chapter 12. So chapter 12 is the entire chapter. We will talk about personality, and it will be really interesting chapter. We are gonna do like an MBTI test and try to understand who you are more and better, and maybe understanding better other people too. And education-wise, females used to be underrepresented in STEM field. Do you know what does the STEM stand for? So STEM means science, technology, not education, engineering, and mathematics field. So used to be those fields are more tough and more logical thinking involved, and more like those are like a male kind of field, but not anymore. There are so many female doctors and engineers and mathematicians. So I guess we shouldn't have those some view, those discrimination, or maybe some our assumption toward any particular gender or maybe sex. Yeah, so that's the whole point of this chapter. We try to understand and admit individual difference. That's the key of this chapter. So girls on slightly better grade, based on the previous, all the information and research is done, and boys slightly outperform on standardized tests. Maybe there are certain reasons, but somehow boys slightly perform on standardized tests, which is like a SAT and ACT, more big tests. Somehow they're more bold, yeah. But girls usually better those maybe term paper and midterm and final exam. Girls are better, slightly better. But those are more individual difference, I want to say. And used to be there's some research going on. Girls are better some language art and reading comprehension, and boys are more better some spatial ability. Do you agree with that? So let's talk about direction. Honestly, I'm not great directions, and direction is really my weak point. I'm not great driving and always confuse the south, north and west and east, and that's really hard for me. So when you try to explain certain place, do you use landmark or some campus navigation? Which is, let's imagine we are going to zoo in Tulsa. How would you explain to your friend? Yeah. So based on those research papers and textbook information, usually girls and women use more those landmark. Yeah, if you go see some quick trip, you need to make a right turn. And before you go straight and make a left turn, maybe on your right side, you will see McDonald's. So make sure if you pass the McDonald's, that means you passed that zoo. And explain in that way, that's more like explain using some landmark. But when you use some distance and campus navigation, maybe you need to be more precise, like the naming those roads. You need to go to 169 highway and then exit 20 and then go straight for a while and make a right turn. And those are like a direction, left, right, and north and south and east and west. If you're using those, more like you're using some campus navigation. But I do believe it's depending on the person and individual difference too. But textbook information is more like based on the traditional way of view and thinking. Maybe we need to update all other information as well. So hopefully you enjoy this chapter. Chapter 10, we've been talking about multiculturalism. Yeah. Do you still remember the good description of a multiculturalism is a patchwork quilt instead of a melting pot? The weather is cooler and maybe you want some soup, right? And when you make a soup, you put everything together and having really awesome taste. But all each ingredient maybe kind of losing those taste, kind of mingle all together, blending together. Those are like more melting pot. We use those melting pot analogy in order to understand those multiculturalism and diversity. But I guess patchwork quilt can be more, maybe better analogy for describing all the differences. Because when you're looking at those patchwork quilt, it does include individual uniqueness. Each individual pattern or the little patch that show and they give some uniqueness and specialness, right? But still, that's the part of a big blanket as a quilt, right? So patchwork, those quilt can be good analogy of multiculturalism and diversity and understanding individual differences. So thank you for listening for this whole chapter and learn together. Let's go to the next chapter. Next chapter. So this chapter, chapter 11, we are going to talk about stress and health. Stress and health. Very important chapter, and I know we are toward more at the end of the semester, so you may feel like stressed out. Yeah, so far I have been so busy and tried to do my homework and assignment and attending class, and it can be really challenging for you. Yeah, you did a great job. You need to do like a self-padding. Yeah. So this chapter we are going to talk about stress. Yeah. So the first one is, what is stress and what causes it? So stress, and there's a stressor, the causes of it, yeah? And stress the mind and body connection. Our mind and body, it's connected together. Yeah, we are body and mind are connected. So we will talk about those symptoms, physiological reaction and psychological reaction. And stress and culture, we will talk about it. And coping with the stress, how do you cope your own stress? And psychological strategies and societal strategies and social strategies, and coping with the stress, physical strategies and medical strategies. So this is the chapter thinking about diagnose. How do you feel those stress? Yeah, stressful life, because the stressor, maybe prepare your pen and maybe paper and then write down what makes you really stressed out. Yeah, how do you feel? And that's the really main topic of today's lecture. And how can we manage well? And how do you manage? How would you share with other people? So here, underline what is stress. So stress is unpleasant physical or psychological reaction to circumstances and surround you perceive as challenging. There are so many challenging moments and challenging area. As a human being, you may meet those obstacles. You may meet those hindrance in your life. Yeah. So when you have those moments, how do you feel, your body-wise? Yeah. So some of you may feel like you are sick, like your body aches. Yeah, somehow physically, you do not do well. Like those are physiological, stress. Yeah, so you may have some stomach aches, and if you're kind of too nervous and try to do some exam and prepare, anybody you feel like maybe some stomach ache and I cannot digest well, and some of you may get some like developing back pain. And you cannot sit well, and you cannot walk well. Suddenly, those back pain kind of getting worse, right? Because of a high stressful situation. So those are physiological reaction, right? And sometimes you cannot sleep well because of those stress. You just thinking about focusing on what you really solve the question or the problem. Yeah, you cannot sleep well. Those are all relating with physiological stress, and kind of you are showing as a reaction because of those stressor, right? And psychological stress, those are more like an argument with your romantic partner. Maybe you love somebody else so much, but somehow you got some argument and you cannot sleep well, and still, physiologically maybe you feel okay, but psychologically you are dealing with those. And sometimes those psychological stress can be worse. Yeah, can be worse. You cannot focusing on what you are doing, even though you are eating, maybe you cannot taste well. So imagine you broke up with somebody else. You love that person, somehow that person say, you are not my type. Yeah, you cannot be my boyfriend and girlfriend. Yeah, thinking about psychological stress. Yeah. What I'm wrong with me, and what did I do wrong for her or maybe him, and that can be really hard situation psychologically. Those are psychological stress. And social cultural stress. Being in a minority group, as maybe some particular religion, you are maybe minority in our society, or you've been talking about sexual orientation too. So as one of the things can be as a different sexual orientation than your peers. You got some stressed out. Yeah, those like being as a small group of people, that can be more social cultural stress. Yeah, so when you kind of feel any kind of a stress because of current situation, you may write down. You may write down. I know you are watching my lecture. Write down what is your stress today, and maybe recently. So I'm gonna give you a couple of seconds and writing down your stress. Yeah. So I know as a student, I know you're working hard all the time, and I know we have high schoolers, concurrent students, they're watching this lecture. As a high school student, you may involve in lots of sports activity. You are maybe playing some basketball and football, and all kind of, some sports, yeah? So you have a game during the weekend. But during the weekend, you need to do maybe other assignment, make up those assignments and prepare for the exam, right? And you are taking classes too. And I know some of you, not only you are a student, you are a worker. Yeah, you are working maybe after school 3 hours and maybe 4 hours per day to make some money, to have your gas money, or try to support yourself too. So studying and working and try to participate all the sports event and maybe game, and also maybe some having good relationship with your friends, which is maybe participating some friends' birthday party, maybe hanging out all the time, and those are fun time, but you need to think and make a good balance, right, as a good student. So that can be usually very your stress. But I know it can be challenging, but later on you may feel like that was really good experience, kind of train you to become adult, as an adolescent you may feel later on. But right now that can be really stressful for you, So that was the definition of what is stress, physical or psychological reaction to those your environment you perceive as challenging. So challenging and also, I cannot do it anymore. So it can be really big problem if you feel in that way. But that's the stress. So when you have those stressful moments, I want to ask you, would you choose fight or flight? So maybe fight, which is like attack it, or maybe flight, run away. Maybe those are your option. Let's just say, thinking about your stressful situation, maybe some of you may feel like, I don't know, I feel overwhelmed and I don't know what to do. But maybe some of you kind of make a decision, let's embrace it and just kind of attack it. Maybe you are struggling some mathematics and mathematical problems and exam, and you feel like you are really behind comparing to your peers. But still, if I put maybe 1 hour per day, starting from today, exam is next. So next maybe Thursday. So still, you have about 10 days, maybe you can make it. You can kind of master certain concept and you can do it. So attack it versus run away. I don't know, maybe I'm gonna give up the mathematics. That's not my subject. Possibly you can do it in that way. And also some, relationship-wise, you have a best friend. Somehow you have some argument, a couple of weeks ago, and still you are not a good relationship. And attack it. Maybe you need to, find the person and try to maybe apologize first, or maybe you wanna say, I would like to talk with you, and begin with that topic and resolve those conflicts. Those are more like an attacking way, or maybe run away. I used to be best friend with a person, but somehow we didn't work out, and a couple of weeks ago we have a really big, huge argument. I don't want to be friend with him. I don't want to be friend with her anymore. So maybe run away. So what would be your option? I know you've been writing down about your struggles and challenges and stress on your paper, thinking about, are you going to attack it or run away? There's our options, so you can kind of choose. So it's really depending on, sometimes we need to choose attack it, and sometimes if it is a let it go thing and maybe it's okay, maybe you can do maybe later, maybe you can kind of compensate later on. Sometimes run away, kind of let it go can be one of the options. It's really depending on the subject and the situation. So next one is, what causes stress? Stressor. So underline, stressor means any event or change in one's life that causes stress. I know we already finished chapter 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, and 7, 8, and 9. That will be exam 3. Introduction to Psychology, online exam 3. Not this weekend, but next week. Yeah, next Friday you will take those exam 3. It will cover chapter 7, chapter 8, and chapter 9. So taking exam can be stressor. So exam itself can be stressor. So any event or change causes your stress. I know you are doing well in my class, everybody, almost like everybody, but I guess some of you may have like a high stress because of the exam. So what would be like a symptom of stress? So we have an exam we'll take next Friday, right? Those are stressor. Exam is a stressor. Because of those exam, I got stressed out. Those are stress. So how would you feel your stress right now? So, I mean, this is like an exaggeration, but maybe some of you may feel like I cannot sleep well and I'm anxious. I try to read the textbook more and be ready to take the exam next week and try to maybe go back to lecture and listen to, Dr. Moon's lecture and prepare for those. And also one of the things is at the end of this month, which is this Thursday, you need to turn in a reflection paper, which is 20 points, right? I mean, next Friday, we need to take the exam 3, but still we need to have those assignment reflection paper. So I'm overwhelming and maybe stressed out. I don't know how to deal with those, right? So those are stressor. Those exam and reflection paper, that's the reason, right? Those are stressor. But stress is a physiological, maybe psychological reaction. Because of that, you cannot sleep well and you cannot concentrate on your lecture and your study. That can be your stress, right? But we need to thinking about appraisal. So appraisal means there is a stressor. When you're kind of looking at here, stressor can be your exam or maybe reflection paper topic and those reflection paper assignment, right? And appraisal means, can you handle this? Can you handle this? How bad the stress is and how you are able to handle those. So depending on that, you assess. Those are appraisal. Appraisal means how much of the stress, how can we manage those stress. So depending on those appraisal, you may feel different stress, right? So there's a stressor, the reason, the cause of stress. And appraisal, because of those, how you evaluate those stressor, you may feel stress, different level of stress, right? So here, under the appraisals, primary appraisal, the way we determine how stressful an event is to you. So how those online exam 3 is stressful for you. It's online and usually, Dr. Moon cover during the lecture and on the line, it will be on your exam. It's really important. So I already got the main point and there's a study guide too. So I don't need to worry about it. Yeah. So those are more like how you, evaluate, determine how stressful that exam is to you. Right? And secondary appraisal is the way you determine how capable you are of coping those events. I've been a good student and working hard and I've been understanding the whole chapter 7, 8, and 9, so I can do well. I got this. Those are more secondary appraisal. Okay. So I know you have lots of a stressful life and sometimes you feel overwhelmed. I don't know how can I attack this. Maybe I just want to flight. I want to run away. Yeah. So thinking about your stressful situation and stressful life, yeah. As a student, you may be working, maybe studying and making a good balance and try to have a good relationship with other people. It can be all stressful situation. But underline hassles, yeah. Usually we are feeling fatigued and maybe stressed out and overwhelmed. Those moment. It's not because a big thing happened to you. Usually small thing. Those are all the hassles, common minor annoyances, and aggravation of day-to-day life. So this time, think about one of your hassle daily. What would be your hassle? Yeah, what was your hassle today? So think about it. And some of you, you may feel like, your car doesn't work. Somehow the engine doesn't start, right? It can be hassles, right? And whenever you drive, your maybe wiper, the rainy day, it doesn't work. It maybe work very awkwardly. That's maybe one of the hassle too, yeah? Oops. So that's the hassle, but hassle is the common and minor annoyances, but make you stressed out too. So that's the major thing. People kind of feel stressed out because those hassle moment. So next one, we will talk about, general adaptation syndrome. Well-known scholar Hans Selye, he kind of put the 3-stage model, how we deal with those stressful situations. So alarming stages, resistance, and exhaustion. So those are stages: alarming, resistance, and exhaustion. So I will explain. Maybe the good analogy will be fighter. Yeah, I know some of you, there used to be your dream job, want to be a fighter, but thinking about their stress and stressor and how do they feel maybe before and after extinguish those fire, right? And imagine you are a firefighter and there's like alarming stages, ding, 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 yeah? So the red light kind of turns on and you be ready to go somewhere else. Those are like alarming stages. You already got a little bit of a stress, right? Because you want to get your job done well, and also you may get some hurt too because of maybe there's like a big fire, right? So alarming stages, yeah, already you kind of having like a little bit of a stress. And resistance, you went there, that place, there are big fire. So you try to do your best, put your all energy, extinguish those fire. Those are resistance stages, resistance. And after that, you come back to your station, you feel exhausted. I mean, you did a great job. People really appreciate your hard work, but physically you are so tired, and mentally, psychologically, you are tired too, because you really get done that like job done well and extinguish all the fire, right? So try to help other people, rescue people too. So alarming stages and resistance for a while and exhaustion. If you have those 3 stages over and over and over, how about their chronological kind of stress? So chronic stressor can be really damaging your life, your health, psychological health, and physical health too. So thinking about, do you have any example? Yeah, give you some chronic stress. It can be relationship with somebody else. If you do not have a good relationship with your parents, if you do not have a good relationship with your spouse, with your boyfriend and girlfriend, maybe even like your friend, it can be really challenging because it's gonna be there, always turn on that stress, right? So chronic stressors make you feel stressed out. Those 3 stages, alarming, yeah, maybe that person is coming to your hometown soon, right? And resistant, maybe having and greeting that person for a while. And then you feel like exhausted. Your energy is all out dealing with those interaction with that people, right? It's kind of ongoing stress. You may have those, having lots of stress, having those, physical and psychological reaction. So whenever you feel like alarming stages, resistance, and exhaustion over and over, you may be very vulnerable to disease. Your immune system can be weakened because of those recurring stressful situations. So those chronic stress can be related with job-related stress. Honestly, I'm so lucky to become a professor, and I love this job. I love teaching and engaging with my students and working with my colleagues too. So, I mean, for me, this is really my dream job. but I know some of you may work somewhere else, but you do not like that job. You are working there to make money, to live. Yeah, in that case, it can be really stress. Yeah, maybe your boss is not nice and not kind of people, and try to give always like a stressful assignment. So it can be really challenging, right? An abusive relationship, maybe boyfriend and girlfriend, maybe even like a friend, they can give some chronic stress. An unstable environment, which is you do not know what to eat tomorrow and where to live, because maybe recently your parents got divorced and you do not having some stable place to live. Maybe 1 week you need to live apartment in your maybe mom's house, and maybe the other week you need to live in the father's house. Yeah, it can be really challenging, unstable those environment. Okay, let's talk about stress and your mind. This is kind of interesting. Stress and personality types. Stress and personality types. So I'm going to introduce those type A personality, type B personality, and type C personality, and type D personality one by one, and thinking about what kind of personality are you having now. I mean, you may have several maybe overlapping personality, but I'm going to explain the basic concept of each personality from now on. So stress and type A personality. Are you a person very competitive and working hard all the time? More like a perfectionist. I used to be perfectionist, yeah, and try to make sure everything is on time, everything is organized very well. Even I don't want to begin to my work if everything is not prepared. Yeah, those are more like a type A personality. But I realize life has lots of on and off, and it's not sure just you planned all the time. So you need to be more flexible and try to embrace all those moments. So if you have a type A personality, you have a very high competitiveness, and you have high motivation, high drive, which is a good thing, but sometimes it can be really hard on you, right? And impatient, because certain things doesn't work what you plan to be, so you can be really stressed out because of those. Hostility, because it doesn't work what you plan to do, you may yell somebody else, why it doesn't work in the way I planned, and I give you, all the like a schedule for you, but why it didn't work in that way. So in that sense, really challenging. Those are like a type A personality. So raise your hand and think about yourself. Do you have more like a type A personality? If you feel like you, most hardworking and very competitive and no break and perfectionist, most likely you kind of identify you as having some type A personality. Okay, and there's a correlation. If you're having type A personality, maybe possibly heart disease, more having those heart disease, heart attack. Yeah. So thinking about it, I know you are very driven for your study, maybe for your sports, maybe some your hobby and all kind of things, right? But our life, we planned, we schedule, but sometimes it doesn't work in that way. And try to be a little kind of more relaxed, and it will be okay. Yeah, some flexibility can be maybe my advice if you're having those type A personality. Okay, so let's talk about other personality, which is type B personality, and type C personality, and type D personality. If you're having type B personality, you are more like non-competitive. Oh, it's gonna be okay. Let him do it. Let her do it. I can be the third. It's okay. Very relaxed and easygoing and rarely angry. Yeah. Are you having those personality? Those are more like a type B personality. So, so thinking about that, I mean, that's a good thing. Type B personality, having type B personality. I know someone who has really having those type B personality, usually they do not worry much about it. Worry less. Yeah, worry less. Even though you have an exam tomorrow, they're going to study, but they feel like, yeah, I'm going to do my best, but it's going to be okay. And tomorrow is one of the exam. If I do not do well tomorrow's exam, I can do better next exam. So they're pretty much positive and relaxed, enjoy their life. But sometimes you need to have some type A personality, very driven and toward reach your goal and maybe accomplish those, right? But that's the kind of personality. Everybody has a different personality, right? Those are type B personality. So raise your hand if you feel like I do have more type B personality. Yeah, so raise your hand, yeah, and think about your personality. And stress. How would you deal with those stress as a type B personality? And characteristics of a type C personality. They have a very low level of emotional expression. So nobody recognizes their true emotion. They're always smiling. Yeah, be positive. And smiling on their face maybe deepens their heart. Some grudge going on, some anger going on, kind of fume going on. But nobody notices it because they usually do not share their emotion, right? So high agreeableness, yeah, I agree with you. I think that's a really good idea. Let's go for that, yeah. And feelings of helplessness, which means sometimes they're kind of smiling, yeah. They seems like they pretend they're kind of managing well certain situation, but actually deep inside, they are struggling. They don't know what to do, where should go, and where can they get some help. They're struggling inside, and they have really some grudge mind, maybe it's on somebody else, but they do not express fully emotionally. So in that sense, if you're having some type C personality, they may have some cancer. I mean, those are like a, possible correlation. I mean, it's interesting, but if you have a type A personality, there's maybe more higher chance to have some heart attack, right? And type B personality is more relaxed personality, so probably you have a long life, longevity, yeah? Type C personality looks okay outside, pretend. I mean, maybe they're kind of looking, smiling all the time and agree with your opinion, but deep inside, they may have some like their own opinion, and sometimes they do not know how to reserve their struggles, right? So in that case, maybe a little bit of a higher chance to get some maybe those disease, other disease too, right? Type D personality is high levels of negative emotions. Have you ever met those people? They always disagree with you and do not smile much, and maybe always something complain a lot, right? Those are high levels of negative emotions and reluctance to share those emotions with others. So if you have a type D personality, you don't need to raise your hand, but think about it, how you deal with all the stressful situation. So we've been talking about type A, type B, type C, type D personality. So maybe I will talk more about personality type and stress. So the next one, we will talk very detailed information about personality and stress, and maybe their characteristics and temperament later chapter, which is chapter 12. That's the whole chapter we will talk about personality. But this is like a little introduction of, since we are talking about stress, stressor, and maybe depending on the personality, how do they react? Maybe some relationship between stress and personality. So this is, you need to understand and maybe even memorize, because we will talk more. Ocean, so remember ocean, the one word, ocean, right? So O stands for openness to experience, and C stands for conscientiousness, conscientiousness, and E stand for extraversion, and A stand for agreeableness, and N stands for neuroticism. So if you are looking at those acronym, OCEAN, OCEAN, those are ocean. If you remember the ocean, those are big 5-factor model of personality. You already got like one maybe fifth of the information about personality chapter. So openness, if you have a high O, which is like a openness to experience, you have a tendency to receive the new and unconventional ideas and information. Think about you. Do you have pretty good high openness to experience? Which means if you have a high openness to experience, you are willing to try new things, even willing to try to eat new food. Yeah. So maybe if you never eaten maybe some having some Korean food, maybe try to kimchi. Kimchi is really traditional fermented food as a cabbage, made with cabbage. It's a spicy, but it's really good for your health, yeah, and boost your immune system. So I know some of you already tried kimchi. Maybe you may like it and maybe dislike it, but kind of open to like a new thing, new experience, yeah. So if you have a high O, which is high openness to experience, you may do those kind of like some exploration of your life, yeah. And the second one is underlined, very important personality category, conscientiousness. So if you have a high conscientiousness, that means you are very well organized and very responsible, responsible very well, and deliberate, about all kind of things. So people really like you and appreciate you and kind of respect you too, because really positively relating with physical health, mental health, and working and job performance, also studying. You are most of you are watching my lecture as a high schoolers and maybe college students. If you have a high conscientiousness, that means you may have a high GPA. You may have a high performance, yeah, and maybe mental health and physical health too, because you have a very well organized person and scheduling all the time and try to see doctor regularly, kind of regular checkup. So high conscientiousness, it's relating with good mental and physical health and also good GPA too, right? Yeah. Extraversion is more like a social butterfly. You are more outgoing and tendency to be like more social and outgoing. So thinking about you, do you feel like I have a high extraversion, yeah, in terms of personality, yeah? And some of you may feel like, no, I'm more like a reserved. That's okay, yeah? Maybe extraversion, that element is not that high, yeah? But that's kind of big 5-factor. Scholars, they try to put everything, kind of descriptive words for the personality, and ending up, those are 5 big factors: openness, conscientiousness, and extraversion, and agreeableness. So if you have a high agreeableness, which means, do you get along with other people and kind of agree with a certain opinion, yeah, without not much, like a trouble together, right? So raise your hand, maybe thinking about if you have a high agreeableness. That's one of the personality traits. So tendency to cooperate and comply with other people. Honestly, I have a very high agreeableness because I was born and raised in South Korea. It's more like a collectivistic culture. Yeah. So sometimes, because of those group value, those individually maybe can be sacrificed. It is okay, can be regarded more like okay, maybe having those better value, like a group value, sometimes your opinion can be not ignored, but can be more like a silence for a while. Yeah, so it can be possibly, and try to be in that group and mingle together as a group value. Yeah, so in that sense, agreeableness is really important personality traits. So usually if people come from collectivistic culture, they have a high agreeableness, those personality traits. The last one is neuroticism. Neuroticism is a tendency to experience negative emotions such as anxiety or depression, which is not ideal, right? Yeah, but I know some of you have really high anxiety, always anxious, doing everything before you are doing certain things. Yeah, it can be really challenging, right? So neuroticism. So thinking about that, we've been talking about 5 big factors for personality development. Openness, usually high openness, that's a good thing. Yeah, adjusting well the new environment, right? And maybe dealing with those stressful life better, right? Conscientiousness, maybe you feel like even less stressful because you are very organized, plan ahead, and making a decision correctly. So do not need to having those overwhelming moment, right? And extroversion, you are socially very active and extroverted and try to be nice and kind to other people more like out loudly. So in that sense, people really like you and try to help you whenever you have some hard time. So stress life, stressful, related with some stress. If you have a high extroversion, it may positively working, right? Positively working. And agreeableness too, if you have a high agreeableness in personality trait, maybe people like you and maybe hang out with you because they're going to listen to you if you have a high agreeableness and try to, support you, right? So high agreeableness is kind of positively relating, kind of managing your stress. But the last one, neuroticism. If you have a high neuroticism, those are negatively influenced dealing with your stress. Unlikely other 4 other factors, if you have a high neuroticism, it can be really challenging. Maybe it can be harder for you if you have a high neuroticism. Okay? So let's talk about some stress-related psychological disorders. If you're looking at this picture, what happened here? Anybody can describe for me? Yeah. Looks like a woman, girl is, a lady is crying, crying. Maybe certain happened, maybe tornado attack, tornado attack. So everything is, blow off and her house is collapsed and she's crying. So I don't know what to do and who is going to help me and no one is near me. And financially, I don't know how can I deal with those. It can be really, really stressful situation. If something happened to you, like a tornado attack and destroy everything, just like this scene, immediately you may have very stressful those symptom. So I will go kind of further here. Underline acute stress disorder. So acute stress disorder means psychological disorder that emerges in the days or weeks immediately after that trauma. Those in a tornado attack to her house and her area is all kind of destroyed. You may experience acute stress disorder because of that tragedy, because of those trauma. You cannot sleep, you cannot eat, you cannot think well, and you cannot make a good decision. Those are all relating with acute stress disorder. If something happened, tragic things happen to you, everything is kind of shutting down, you don't know what to do, those are you are having the symptom of acute stress disorder. And somehow, the neighborhood and maybe your relatives and maybe government try to help you, but it will take time. But still, you are suffering those same level of stress after 1 month. yeah, after maybe couple of months, you still have the same symptom. You cannot sleep well, you cannot eat well, you cannot deal with your daily life. Those are maybe you're developing acute stress disorder to more like post-traumatic stress disorder. So PTSD, you may heard about PTSD, right? Those are post-traumatic stress disorder. It's a psychological disorder lasting at least a month. So that means if this woman having destroying all her house and possession, right after maybe a couple of days, she may have acute stress disorder. Cannot sleep, cannot eat, and cannot make a decision. The brain doesn't, function well. Yeah, that can be acute stress disorder. Couple of days later, when she got those struck out those tornado, but those symptoms, psychological those symptoms, kind of keep lasting about 1 month. So after 1 month, we kind of change the name from acute stress disorder to post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. So lasting at least a month, and after that, she's suffering PTSD. And it can be for a long time. Maybe tornado attack to happen to you and happen to this lady, even after 6 months, having the same symptom. Even after 1 year later, having the same symptom. So after 1 month having those psychological symptom, we want to say the woman is suffering PTSD, not acute stress disorder. Okay, so after 1 month you are suffering those, we kind of change the name of the psychological disorder, acute stress disorder, to post-traumatic stress disorder. Okay. So far, so good. Yeah, we've been talking about so many different concepts today, starting with wrapping up our last chapter, which was chapter 10, talking about multiculturalism, diversity, and sexual orientation and gender, right? And this chapter, we've been talking about stress and stressor and appraiser, and how can we deal with those stress, right? Hopefully, because of this chapter, we do not feel stressed out, but kind of evaluate, appraise your stressful situation now. But I want to say you are not alone. Yeah, if you're dealing with a really high stressful situation, you can get some help. You can meet your counselor in your school if you're a concurrent student. And also you are the RSU student. We have a counseling service here, Timely Care. So you can make an appointment through the online, and you will meet those counselor, professional therapist, and counselor through Zoom or those online session. And also if you go to DCTC, the first floor, there's a lot of resources. So you are not alone, and you can get some professional help if you really suffer those stressful situation. But everybody, we do have our own burden and our own challenge, and how we can reserve and try to help ourselves, that's really matter. And thinking about that, you are not alone, and you can get some help, some professional help. And you can email me if you feel like overwhelming because of maybe homework and exam about this class. You can email me, and maybe I can help you and discuss together too. Okay, so thinking about trauma, we've been talking about acute stress disorder and post-stress disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and trauma. So trauma can be, so many things can be trauma. We'll talk about this topic more this Thursday. But basically, thinking about trauma, have you ever experienced any trauma in your life? Yeah? Oh, that's my trauma. Maybe you may think about that, yeah? So sometimes you're experiencing trauma directly. Maybe car accident to happen to you, you got some trauma. So whenever you see the driving, maybe even looking at the car, that gives you some uncomfortableness. because car accident give you some trauma. But sometimes trauma, you don't need to experience trauma directly. Maybe you heard of some car accident. Maybe your best friend got some car accident. Just listening to your best friend got some car accident, that can give you some trauma too. Yeah, so it doesn't need to be directly experience it, but somebody else experience can give you trauma. Yeah, and just kind of observing right there, somebody get through those trauma, it can give you very stressful situation, give you trauma too. So we will talk about trauma more this Thursday, and talk about what causes like a trauma.